Good morning. Welcome to ETRAGE's webinar on ETRAGE Bulk Loader for Windchill. We're so glad you're here. And as always, everyone is muted. Please use the icon on the top right for questions. We'll get to those towards the end. A recording will be available on YouTube. We have a channel over there with a ton of great content. We're posting videos every 2 weeks for about 2 years now. So get over there and check that out. I'm Connor, and joining me today is Ephraim. We'll be leading our demonstration. We each bring over a decade of experience in PTC and PLM space. Our shared focus as an organization is on understanding our clients' business challenges, delivering tailored, effective solutions, such as large data migrations in or out of PLM systems. We're trying to connect those with ERPs. At ETRAGE, our focus is on driving a continuous PLM adaptation by addressing the needs of your systems, your management, and your end users. Today's agenda is all about helping you get more out of your Windchill by expanding access to drawings frozen in legacy systems or scattered across the business in siloed PLM systems. ETRAGE is a global company with over 20 years of experience helping PLM adaptation go beyond engineering and into your entire enterprise. We understand that adoption isn't a one-time event, but is truly strategic, an ongoing process focused on continuous improvement and evolving over time. As PTC technology partner, ETRAGE develops an innovative software and service solution, helping companies move forward with a complete digital footprint and away from papered silo databases. And with that, Ephraim, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Connor, and thanks everybody for joining today's session. The bulk loader is basically a tool or a process used to efficiently import and export large volumes of data into or out of the database or the system. So it is designed to handle high data volumes very quickly. So the key steps often included in the data migration process is the planning, which is very important. So preparation is always a key when it comes to data migration. We need to make sure that we define the scope. We know what data we exporting out, we're importing into the target system, and again, whether we pulling in the metadata or attribute information as part of that as well. The timelines of when we start on the project and how long it will take for the trial migration phase, as well as the production phase, and also the resources from the service provider side who will be involved in the actual migration process, and then from the customer side who will be involved in helping us scope out the project and specify the requirements for that, and also who would be testing once the trial migration is completed. Then secondly is the extraction of this data. So simply the retrieval of this data from the source system, or if it's from the a network location or any other location where we're getting this data from. And the other important part of this is making sure that we convert this data to match what is required for our target system. So if we need to reformat how that data has been pulled in, or if there's duplicates in this data and we need to do a bit of cleaning on this data, we need to come up with strategies on how we handle those duplicates. Do we just patch the duplicates, or if it's different components, do we go in and rename some of the files coming from the source? How do we handle the components that are already existing on the target system? And then comes the loading, which is the importing of this data into the new system. And then finally, the validation. So this is where we pull in the customer to basically verify if the data is accurate in the target system, and also the completeness of that data. So a badly carried out migration can cost millions in lost productivity. So that is why it's important to make sure we prepare and scope out this particular migration project. So the phases to how the ETRAGE migration or bulk loader works is you would have a source, and source can be categorized in these components below here. It could be that the source is a PLM system. So in this case, it could be coming from the Windchill itself. So we have tools that can actually export out that data from a PLM tool. And the use case in Windchill to Windchill and could be in a case where you have acquired another company that uses Windchill, but again, you want to standardize and have everyone use one system. But we can also, import data from systems like Teamcenter, Innovia, and so on. And again, this data could be coming from the network locations. So it could be data that's been sitting in a OneDrive, or a legacy data that's sitting in a network drive somewhere that needs to be pushed into the Windchill system to be available throughout the company. Or it could be data coming from other systems such as SharePoint. So we take this data and then we basically stage it in a database, XML files. We could also be using CSV files to assist in staging this kind of information. The important thing with staging is to basically analyze this information and prepare it for the target source. So making sure that it is in the right format that is acceptable to the Windchill target system. And it also helps us in terms of devising a strategy on how we're going to handle this particular migration. And eventually the target being the final system where we take in this data in, which in this case would be Windchill system. So what we'll be looking at today with the ETRAGE bulk migration would be how to handle this importing of data into Windchill using the 3 different components. First one being the database that we basically use to collect and stage all the required information for migration. So for instance, if there's attributes information that we need to gather from there, what sort of models we need, things like revisions on the target and the source systems. So this is where we basically stage that information and again come up with that strategy on how we handle this data. For instance, if we are importing multiple revisions of this information of this data, how do we want to handle that, the sequencing of that information, and what happens if that data already exists in the target system? Then the second tool is called EMS tool. This helps us prepare and analyze that information and make sure it's ready and migratable to the target system. And again, if there's any issues with this data, where it's missing maybe dependencies and we're having issues with migrating it, at this stage, we'll be able to know and be able to pick up what are the issues if we need to send this data back to customer to fix. Then eventually is the bulk loader, which is basically an application that loads the physical data into the Windchill system. And you can also see allows you to process different data. In this case, AutoCAD, Creo, the actual documents files that you need to put in, things like SolidWorks files, if you have those, it is able to process that information. So I'll take you through the system and the demo on how the system actually works and how it actually uploads or migrates this data into Windchill. So I've created a product that is called Migrating Data. And in this product, I have a folder that's called the CAD folder. This is where we're going to be placing our Creo models in. And then I also have another folder called Documentations. So this is where we'll be placing our documents. So you'll see at the moment the folders are empty. Then the next thing I want to show here is the different components we talked about. The EMS database, which is the staging phase. So we've already staged some of the models in here, and we'll see with different columns there. I can see what is the model name, what type is it? Is it just a part component? Is it a drawing? Is it an assembly, or is it a document? And then what I've also specified here is the target location where I'm going to be placing this data. So in this case, it is to the migration data folder. And then for all the CAD components, I'm placing them in the CAD folder, and the documents will go into the documents folder. Then I also have the source file path that basically specifies the exact path where the actual components are being staged on the file system. And then I also have the target that I've specified also for all my components. So all the data from source is currently released, so we bring it as released information. The important column about the migration is the migration state or migration status column. So the way our bulk migrator or bulk loader works is it will first load into the system the parts or the components that makes up the assembly. And then once that's done, it will then process or migrate the assembly, because the assembly depends on those components. Same with the drawings. It will only load the drawings once the part that relates to that drawing is already in the system. The nice thing with that is at all material times, the data that we've loaded will always be, complete data. You won't have any issues when it comes to dependencies and things like that. So broken assemblies, broken drawings, based on the strategy, you won't be able to encounter such issues. So what we're seeing on this here, the components, it tells us that these components are BL ready, so bulk loader ready. So these are the components that will be loaded first. And then the on-file system, it's simply telling us the components that are available on the system but are not yet ready, because we need to load the components that make up this assemblies first, or that this drawings depends on first. And then these are the different statuses that you would get in here. So once it starts migrating, it'll place that component in the migration state, and once it's migrated, it will go to the migrated state. If it fails, it will tell us then that it's going to fail the migration, and we can go in and see why is that. Most of the time, it is that it cannot find, it's an assembly that cannot find the dependency, or a drawing that cannot find a source part or a source assembly. So then the next component here is the migration system tool. This is basically help us to analyze and prepare this data. So it goes in and checks if there is any problematic data that we have in this staging area. And then in this case, we don't have anything there that has an issue. And then once I've done that, I'll go in and prepare the list for upload. And then I'll then use the EMS bulk loader to start the actual moving of these files into my Windchill system. And again, because I know I'm uploading the Creo files, I'll pick the drawing file, the Creo option as a document type, and then I'll go in and start the migration. So you'll see here what is happening in the background to make sure that this data is complete and it doesn't have issues once it's in the Windchill side. It actually uses Creo to open up this data, validate it, and then checks it into Windchill system. So it is not checking in that data. And if we go back to Windchill, just refresh the CAD folder over here, I can already see there's some components that I have already been moved over into this folder. I'll go in and just refresh again. So yeah, we just started uploading those components in here. And as I said, if you do have the attributes that are linked to these components, you can also migrate those components as well. So for this particular component here, you have the description and the model by attribute that we have captured for this. And you can also see that the values for those coming from the source system has been updated. And that information was also staged in our database here. So if I go to my attributes, you'd see for this particular component ID, I have those attributes captured on there. So the system allows you to basically upload all your metadata information in here as well. And now you'll also notice that our files has been migrated and they have all been marked as migrated on here. So if I refresh the table, but then again, we need to go in and prepare the next set that needs to be migrated. And that's actually been done in this particular EMS tool here, where you basically prepare that list. And what it does is now setting the next batch that, dependent on the initial batch, BL ready. Now you'll see if you go back in the bulk loader, it has now started loading that information. And as I've said, if I were to refresh this list again here, if there's anything that's in the process of being migrated, it will set that to the in migration state. So that prepare list that I've just done after the initial migration, it is something that can be automated, and I'll show you how that is done in a bit here. It's something that can be automated. I just wanted to show you the whole process that happens in the background. So we can see now all the CAD data has been migrated. If I again go back to that CAD folder, we should be able to see that assembly and the drawings that has now been migrated as well. So now for the documents, I just go back again to the database. You'll notice that for this document, we actually have two different versions for this particular file. So version 1 and version 2 that we need to upload. And version 1 is already on the BL ready, but because you want to upload the first version before you do the second version upload. But for this, I'm going to enable that auto prepare or analyze of data by setting a global setting that allows you or the system to automatically prepare the list for us. I'm going to change this from manual to automatic. And I'll go back. So this is now done with the CAD. I'll stop it and set it for documents so that I can now process those two document values. Select the document and start the processing. I just want you to check how quick it takes to just load those two versions. So it's now loaded the A, is now loaded the B, which is the revision 1 and the revision 2. And if I go back to this and just reload, my document is now loaded, and I can now see that it's on revision 2. And again, if I go to the details of this, look at the history of this, I can see there is a revision 1 that was loaded and revision 2 that is also loaded now. So judging by, the time it takes to just load those two revisions, if you were to compare it with having to manually do that by uploading a document on the Windchill site, you will see there's a huge time difference when you're handling this data migration with the bulk loader. Okay, so now if I go back to the database and just refresh my model table, we can see that everything it is now migrated and pulled into the Windchill system. That is all I wanted to show as far as the data migration goes. So I'm just going to go back to my presentation here and just bring up a slide that talks about the benefits of the ETRAGE loader, bulk loader. So it allows you to upload or migrate large number of modules. We take in from several thousands to several millions of objects. And again, if you were to compare the speed of processing using the bulk migrator and also using the manual way of opening a module in Creo and manually uploading that, the difference is quite huge. So with the automatic migration or bulk loader, you can migrate anything between 5,000 to 20,000 objects daily per single machine, versus a couple of hundreds that you can manually upload using just Creo from the user desktop. And the nice thing with bulk loader is I can set up multiple bulk loader processing on different machines. So for instance, if I've set up about 5 of those, I can process about 100,000 of files per day. If you were to do the same thing with the manual loading of this, where you set up 5 machines, the problem with that is you'll still need 5 resources to sit in front of each of those PCs and manually load those files. And again, it's still taking you to a couple of hundred files loaded into the system. The other thing is the way it works or upload this data, it does this using a bottom-up migration strategy, which means it loads the dependencies of the assemblies or the drawings first before it actually loads the drawing. So in that way, you will never have issues with the broken assemblies or broken drawings in the system. Because if the dependencies are not all available in the system, it will fail to load, or during the analyzing phase, the preparing phase, it will fail because of that error. And as you've also seen from the demonstration, you can migrate objects, metadata, and attributes from the source system as well. And again, to make sure that the data integrity is kept at all times, the migration of this data is actually using authoring application files, application to load this data into the system. So for Creo files, it's actually using Creo in the backend. SolidWorks, it will use SolidWorks application to load those files also in the backend. Connor, I'm just going to hand it back to you. Check if there's any questions.
Yes. Yep. Just before we get the questions, as you guys type those in, just wanted to bring up that our next couple of webinars, we'll be going over some of our IT support services, specifically for manufacturing companies. We like to help companies audit, do some pen testing, and get a report out from that, kind of, help guide directions around IT support, and making sure Windchill systems and your CAD systems are working to the best they able to. It does look like we have a question. People were wondering if this is a tool they can run without ETRAGE's assistance, or if this is something where you kind of buy the tool and the services.
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is, I mean, the ETRAGE tools, all the ETRAGE tools are very easy to learn and use. So even with this, I mean, after the initial guidance from us, this is a tool that the customer can run on his end without our supervision at all.
Awesome. I think that was the only question we had. So I think we can go on to the next slide. Yeah, so just wanted to quick touch on some of our other products. You see them listed out. We do cloud hosting and Windchill help desk. So that's something you guys are in the market for. We'd love to chat. And thanks for joining today. I think so. You can reach out to me or Ephraim with questions. Contacts up on the board. And if you need to reference this later, it'll be up on our YouTube channel. Thank you.